sin feels strong. Temptation is real. So the question is, how do we put our sin to death? You can't do it by your willpower. You can't white knuckle your way into holiness. You have to start with who you are. Okay, so here we are, fixing our eyes on Christ, right? Trying to grow in Christ. And so Paul then moves on to our next block of instruction. It's not a light block. It's a heavy block. Paul uses violent language here. Paul tells us it's time to put some things to death. There are things in us that are not of Christ, and they need to go. Our worldly ways cannot live with us if we're fixing our eyes on Christ. Now, when Paul says, put to death what is earthly in you, that's strong language. He's not saying manage it, hide it, explain it away. He's saying to kill it. And if we're being honest, that feels impossible, doesn't it? Because sin feels strong. Temptation is real. So the question is, how do we put our sin to death? You can't do it by your willpower. You can't white knuckle your way into holiness. You have to start with who you are. And so Paul told us in verses 1 through 4 that we have died and been raised with Christ. And now he's saying, live like that's true. This is where another passage from Paul helps us. Romans 6. That's just homework for you guys later. You can read all of Romans 6. I'm just going to read a portion of it. Romans 6, Paul unpacks this same reality of union with Christ. He shows us what's already true about us. That's Romans 6, starting in verse 12. Let not sin, therefore, reign in your mortal body to make you obey its passions. Do not present your members to sin as instruments for unrighteousness, but present yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life, and your members to God as instruments for righteousness. For sin will have no dominion over you, since you are not under law, but under grace. You don't kill sin to earn God's love. You kill sin because you're already dead to it. Romans 6 says, let not sin reign in your mortal body, for sin will have no dominion over you, since you are not under the law, but under grace. Do you hear that this morning? Grace doesn't make sin safe. Grace makes sin impossible to rule you. You are united to Christ in his death. Sin's claim on you was buried with him. And you're united to Christ in his resurrection. His power now lives in you. So when you fight sin, you're not fighting for victory. You're walking in the victory that's already yours in Christ. Anything that's in us, anything worldly in us needs to go. We're not hiding it in the basement. We're not stuffing it into the garage. It needs to be put to death. Paul uses violent language because sin is a serious issue. We cannot be living with sin because it is a poison to our Christian maturity. Small sins become big problems. Sin is a weed that will grow and multiply if you let it go unchecked, and it will consume you. Let me illustrate it for you this way. So you have free will. Say after church, you decide you want to buy a snake. Not only do you want to buy a snake, you want to buy a python because, go big or go home, right? And so you decide to buy a python. It's cute. It's like a little 2-foot baby python, whatever. And you grow to love that thing. That is your pet. You take it on walks, because why not? You teach it tricks. It plays fetch with you. This is your pet. You let it sleep with you at night. Awesome. After a few years, that snake becomes fully grown. For context, a fully grown python can be about 16 feet long, weigh upwards of like 150, 200 pounds. But that's still your pet. You love that thing. You start to notice some things that concern you, though. It's starting to hide from you a little bit. You notice it's not eating as much. You kind of see it like peeking around the corner, kind of watching you funny, and you're like, whatever. He's going through his own thing. No big deal. Well, one night, you and your python tuck yourselves in, and it decides, what? I'm hungry. It wraps you up and eats you. That's what sin does to you. You thought you could control it. You thought it was safe, but it eventually killed you. It starts small, manageable, but the more you feed it, the bigger it gets. If you feed it, it will grow. If you tolerate it, it will tighten. Paul doesn't tell us to keep an eye on our sin. He tells us to put it to death. He tells us to kill it before it kills us. Don't reason with it. Don't excuse it. Don't feed it. Otherwise, it will destroy you. Now, here's the deal. Union with Christ frees you. Union with Christ means that you don't have to keep living with what's trying to kill you. You've died with Christ. So now you live as someone who's free from the grip of your old life. And folks, there's a lot of weightiness here. You know, I harp on this a lot because sin is a big problem. It feels like every couple of years, you know, the media will blow up with you know, a pastor who gets caught in some type of scandal. You know, a pastor who's embezzling from the church, having an affair, has a drug or alcohol problem. That's what sin unchecked does. You have your coworkers, your friends, your family members who seem to be living a perfectly normal life. They look like they're walking with Christ. Their marriage is great. Their finances seem just fine. And then out of nowhere, affair, embezzling, alcohol abuse, drug abuse. You fill in the blanks. Sin becomes a big problem if you don't claim your victory over it. Sin becomes a big problem if you continue to live in it. Christ gives us victory over sin. We need to live like we've received that victory. All right. So we're putting to death what's worldly in us, right? We need to replace that with something, though, right? We've got this worldliness that's no longer in us. What do we replace that with? Well, before Paul gets there, he wants us to stop. He reminds us we are God's chosen people. Holy and beloved. Don't skip that. Don't jump to this list of things that Paul tells us to put on. Just understand that first and foremost, you are chosen, holy, and loved. You're not a stranger, you're family.